Hey students and parents, this is Mr. Anderson, the Career and College Counselor here at CV, and I'm going to go through a little walkthrough of how to complete your FAFSA. Now, this year has been incredibly challenging for our students, especially for navigating through the college admissions process, whether that's a technical school, a community college, or a university. I want to encourage you to keep going and fight through that, even though it's been challenging. But because I think of that challenge, we've already seen lower than average FAFSA completion rates. I want to encourage you to complete the FAFSA no matter whether you plan to use student loans or not. Whether you think that you'll be able to get any grants or not, every student should complete it because it will just keep your options open. Now, before you actually start the FAFSA, you're going to need to make sure to have a few things on hand. You want to make sure that you have your social security number, and it needs to be accurate. You need to have also accurate contact information, so your phone number, address, all those types of things. You need to have tax returns. For this year, we'll be using 2019. So you'll need the parents' tax returns from 2019, and then students, if you filed taxes in 2019, you'll want that as well. And then you need the FSA ID for the student. Now that's a username and password that you have to go through that's verified by the federal government. You also need the FSA ID for the parent. Now, if you haven't done that, that's where you need to start. You go to fsaid.ed.gov. Then you're going to click on Create an FSA ID. You'll just walk through that process to get that verified username and password. You're going to be using that multiple times throughout the FAFSA. Make sure that you write down and keep track of all that information, the username, password, email address, challenge questions, all those things. Keep that somewhere safe. To actually complete the FAFSA, you have two options. You can either download the app on a smartphone, the Federal Student Aid app. You'll see a couple screenshots there at the bottom. My son even used that. It actually went very smooth. So don't hesitate using that. The federal government was the one that created that process. So it is pretty smooth. Or what most of our students use is just a web browser on their computer. For the sake of this video, I'm going to use screenshots from the web browser, but just understand that it's the exact same questions that you're going to see on both of those platforms. So to start, you're going to go to fsa.ed.gov. When you get there, you're going to get to this screen, and you're going to click on New to the FAFSA process. Start here. That's going to have you log in. What you're going to do is you're going to use the FSA ID that you created for the student, and you're going to log in to the FAFSA using the FSA ID. It'll make you read and accept a disclaimer, and then it's going to take you to a screen where you're going to click on Start 2020-2021 FAFSA. And then the last thing that they're going to do before you get to the questions is they're going to make you create a save key. I always encourage students, keep this super simple. Even like 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or something like that. Something that is going to be super easy to put that in. If you have to leave or if you get kicked out or something like that, you just put your save key in and it takes you back to the same place. Then it's going to bring you to the first section of the FAFSA, which is personal information for student, and you're going to begin answering questions. So you're going to go through sections of personal info for the student, email and phone, address, residency and eligibility, student education, selective service, driver's license, foster care and parental education, and high school. So you're just going to continue going through these sections and clicking next each time that you finish that page. Now, at any time, if you have some questions when you go through the FAFSA, there is a little blue circle with a question mark on it. You can click on that, and it gives you a further explanation for what they're actually asking. It's a little help feature in that. In addition, they even have a chat feature, a part of the Federal Student Aid website that you can even use. But just know that there's those ways to be able to help provide some clarification there. After you get through the high school section, it's going to take you to the college information and housing section. This is where you're going to search for any college that the student is applying to, and you're going to indicate whether the student, the housing plans for the student if they attend that school. Now, this is only sending information to the schools that you get accepted to, so that they can prepare a financial aid package. If a student doesn't accept this, if the college doesn't accept the student, they won't send that information from the FAFSA. So you don't need to worry about it. I encourage you, any school that you're even considering applying to, put that into the FAFSA. You can do 10 at a time, and then you can always go back in and put in another 10 later. Then it's going to get to an important section called dependency questions. This is where it's determining whether the student is a dependent of their parent or an independent student. Now, 95% of our students are dependent. So it's going to go through sections on marital status, dependence, whether the student has dependents, additional dependency questions, homelessness, and then a section said, I will provide information about my parents, which almost all students will do that unless certain circumstances. Please make sure that you read that part carefully. You want to read it carefully because if you answer any of those questions wrong, you could be chosen for verification, which is kind of a hassle of a process at the end, or you'd have to make corrections to your FAFSA. After the student section on dependency, then you get to the parental information section. You're going to go through the marital status of the parent, the personal information, parent state of residence, household info, and tax filing status. If you have any question on whose information you should be providing through the parental information sections, please make sure to check out on the Federal Student Aid website where it says, who is my primary parent? It gives you lots of circumstances so that you know exactly who to put down. After that basic information for the parent, you'll have the option to connect using the IRS Data Retrieval tool. I urge you all to use that. The parent will put in their FSA ID. They'll then say proceed to the IRS site. It'll take you to the IRS site where a couple sections will be actually filled in, and then you'll just put in the rest of the information. At the end of that, you'll check the box saying transfer my tax information into the FAFSA form, and then it'll take you back to the FAFSA. Now, this is an important process, and why I urge you to use the IRS Data Retrieval tool is, again, it reduces your chances of being selected for verification. If you put in all the information manually, a lot of those students will end up getting chosen for verification, and then you have to go through multiple forms after that in order to rectify that. So after you use the data retrieval tool, it'll take you into the Parental Finances section where it'll go through income from work, simplified path determination, additional IRS info, questions for tax filers, additional financial info, untaxed income, and assets. Make sure that you're reading those sections very carefully. Use that help feature if you need. Then it actually will take you into the student finances section. So it'll ask whether the student filed taxes in 2019. If they did, then the student definitely wants to use the IRS data retrieval tool. If they didn't, it won't actually it won't matter as much about that part. You'll go through income from work, additional IRS info, questions for tax filers, additional financial info, untaxed income, and assets. These are all just for the students, so any assets that the student actually has. After it gets done with the student finances section, it's then going to ask you if you're a preparer. This is typically no, because even a parent isn't a preparer. A parent is just someone who is doing it collaboratively with the student. This is like if you have somebody else preparing the FAFSA for you, and you really shouldn't do that. Honestly, the parent and the student together can get this accomplished. After you click through that, you'll be given a summary of everything that's been on the FAFSA. You're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and you're going to click on Next, which is going to take you to the signature status section. Now, both the student and the parent needs to electronically sign the FAFSA. You do that by clicking on Provide Student Signature first. It then will have you agree to the terms, and then it's going to have you use your FSA ID to sign this FAFSA. After you complete that section, you're going to then do that for the parent. Again, agreeing to the terms, putting in your FSA ID, and clicking on Sign this FAFSA. Then you're going to see under the signature status section that you'll see a green check mark next to both of those signatures. Then you can click on Submit My FAFSA Now. That is then your FAFSA being submitted. You'll get a congratulations page. When you scroll down, you'll even see the schools that are going to receive your FAFSA information. And also you'll see right above that an estimated expected family contribution. Some people will see 0 next to that. Some people will see a large number. Keep in mind that that is just an estimated number at this point. Then it'll be sent to the college, who will actually give you your finalized information. Now, what comes after completing the FAFSA? You'll receive a student aid report. Now, that you will get an email confirmation that you've completed the FAFSA, and then a few days later, you'll get an email saying your FAFSA has been processed, and click here to see your student aid report. It just provides basically a summary of everything you did on the FAFSA, including your expected family contribution. Then from the colleges, any college that accepts you, you'll receive a financial aid award or an award letter or a financial aid package. This will list the total cost of attendance of that school and any financial aid sources that you can access through both the federal government and other means through the institution. So after you decide what school you're going to go to, you're going to accept the financial aid award of just that school. Then they'll probably give you access to do a master promissory note and loan counseling if you're accepting any loans. So that is basically the entire FAFSA process. Hopefully this was helpful just to make you see that it's not overwhelming, even though it's a long process. I mean, half hour, 45 minutes to get through this form can feel a little painful as you go through. However, it is an important step to keeping options open for paying for college. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at canderson@cvsd.org, or you can schedule an appointment with me by going to calendly.com/Mr. Counselor. You can also call me at 558-5234. However, just because of this COVID time, I don't get access to my phone messages as often. So the best way to get a hold of me is to email me or to actually schedule an appointment with me. All right. So good luck getting through the FAFSA. Good luck with this financial aid process. And please let me know if there's any way that I can help.